The barbell bench press is the classic chest exercise, often called the king of upper body lifts. It mainly targets the pectoralis major, the large chest muscle that makes up most of the mass across your torso. But it doesn't stop there. The front deltoids, shoulders, and triceps, back of the arms, play big supporting roles, making it a compound movement that works multiple muscle groups at once. Here's how it works. When you lower the bar to your chest, the pecs stretch and store tension, while the shoulders and triceps help stabilize the bar. As you press upward, the chest contracts to bring your arms together, which is its main function in human movement. The straight bar allows both sides of the chest to push in unison, which means you can usually lift heavier than you could with other unilateral movements, such as dumbbell press. This makes the bench press one of the best tools for progressive overload, the gradual increase of weight that drives muscle growth. Scientific studies show the bench press strongly activates the sternal head of the chest, with variations in grip width shifting emphasis. A wider grip hits the chest more, while a closer grip brings the triceps more into play. That's why you'll see powerlifters and bodybuilders alter their grip placement depending on their goals. But form is everything. Common mistakes include flaring the elbows too wide, bouncing the bar off the chest, or arching excessively. These not only reduce chest activation, but also increase the risk of shoulder and elbow injuries. A safer approach is to keep your elbows at about a 45-degree angle, lower the bar under control, and press smoothly without jerking. When done correctly, the barbell bench press builds raw strength, size, and power in the chest like few other exercises can. It's no accident that the first question people often ask in the gym is still, how much do you bench? The incline dumbbell press is one of the best exercises for building the upper chest, specifically the clavicular head of the pectoralis major. This is the area just below your collarbones that creates the lifted, shelf-like look many lifters want. If the flat chest looks big but lacks height, it usually means the upper chest has been neglected, and this lift fixes that. Dumbbells make the movement different from a barbell press in two ways. First, each arm works independently, so your stronger side can't compensate for your weaker one. Second, the dumbbells travel in an arc rather than a straight line, which gives the chest a greater stretch at the bottom and a stronger contraction at the top. This increased range of motion is why many bodybuilders prefer dumbbells for chest growth. The incline angle changes the mechanics of the press. At 30 to 45 degrees, more tension shifts toward the upper chest and shoulders, while the lower chest works less. Studies in strength science show that this incline position significantly increases activation in the clavicular pec fibers compared to flat pressing. It also keeps the shoulders in a safer, more natural pressing path. That said, handling heavy dumbbells requires balance and stability. You'll never press as much weight as you could on a barbell, and that's not the goal here. Even moderate weights like 40 to 60-pound dumbbells can deliver excellent results if lifted with control. Advanced lifters may go heavier, but form should never be sacrificed. The incline dumbbell press won't replace the flat barbell bench for raw strength, but for complete chest development and building that upper chest fullness, it's non-negotiable. The push-up is one of the oldest and simplest chest exercises, and it still holds up as a foundation for strength. It primarily targets the pectoralis major, but it also recruits the front deltoids, triceps, and even the core to keep the body stable. The movement itself is straightforward. Place your hands slightly wider than shoulder width, keep your body in a straight line, lower until your chest nearly touches the ground, and press back up. While it looks basic, the mechanics mirror a bench press. You're performing a horizontal press, just using your body weight instead of a barbell. Why is it effective? Push-ups work through the same adduction function of the pecs, bringing your arms inward toward the midline, while also training endurance because of the higher reps. Slower tempos or pause reps increase time under tension, which science shows is key for muscle growth. Push-ups are also highly versatile. Decline push-ups shift more load onto the upper chest, weighted push-ups increase resistance for strength, and archer or one-arm variations challenge stability while isolating one side more. This adaptability makes push-ups valuable for beginners and advanced lifters alike. The best part? Accessibility. You don't need a gym or equipment to benefit. Even professional bodybuilders include push-ups as a finisher to pump extra blood into the chest at the end of a heavy workout. For beginners, they're the entry point to chest training. For veterans, they're a timeless tool to push a muscle past exhaustion. The incline barbell press is one of the most effective lifts for developing the upper chest, specifically the clavicular head of the pectoralis major. This part of the chest sits just under the collarbones, and building it adds that full shelf-like look to the torso. The setup starts with the bench at a 30 to 45 degree angle. A lower angle keeps the stress on the chest, while steeper angles bring the shoulders in more. Grip the bar slightly wider than shoulder width, lower it under control to the upper chest, and press it back up in a straight line. Why does the incline matter? Research shows that changing the angle of pressing shifts muscle activation. On a flat bench, the middle chest dominates. On an incline, the clavicular fibers fire harder, forcing growth in a region many lifters neglect. Because the angle shortens shortens your mechanical advantage, you'll move less weight than on a flat bench. But that challenge is exactly what stimulates growth where it's needed most. The incline press isn't just for chest. The anterior deltoids and triceps work heavily here, building overall upper body pressing strength. That's why the lift carries over to flat bench and overhead press performance too. For strength standards, intermediate lifters may work with around 135 to 225 pounds, while advanced lifters often push 275 to 315. The numbers are always lower than flat bench, but the payoff is a more complete, balanced chest. If the goal is a torso that looks powerful from every angle, the incline barbell press is non-negotiable. Chest dips are a bodyweight exercise that shift the focus to the lower chest, specifically the sternal head of the pectoralis major. While dips are often seen as a triceps exercise, a small change in form makes them one of the best chest builders you can do without a barbell. The key is in the angle. By leaning the torso forward and allowing the elbows to flare slightly outward, more tension moves from the triceps into the pecs. As you lower yourself, the chest stretches under load, and when you press back up, the pecs contract powerfully to drive the movement. That stretch-contraction cycle is what creates thickness and density in the lower chest. Science supports this. EMG studies, which measure muscle activity, show that dips performed with a forward lean activate the pecs far more than an upright, triceps-focused version. This makes chest dips an ideal complement to pressing exercises, since they train the chest through a different range of motion. Bodyweight alone is challenging enough for most people. Sets of 10 to 15 can quickly pump the chest full of blood. For progression, lifters often add resistance with a dip belt. A 45-pound plate hanging at the waist can turn dips into a true mass-building movement, and advanced athletes sometimes push even heavier. Form is critical. Going too deep without shoulder mobility can strain the joints, and staying too upright will shift the work back to the triceps. Done properly, chest dips remain one of the most effective tools for building lower chest size and power. Cable crossovers are one of the best isolation movements for shaping and detailing the chest. They target the pectoralis major through horizontal adduction, the motion of pulling the arms across the body, but unlike dumbbell flies, the cables keep constant tension from start to finish. To perform them, set the pulleys high on a cable station, grab the handles, and step forward into a staggered stance. With a slight bend in the elbows, bring your hands together in front of your chest, then slowly return to the starting position. The cables provide resistance both on the way in and the way out, keeping the pecs under continuous load. Science shows that cable crossovers maximize activation in the inner and lower chest, especially when the arms come close together at the end of the movement. The ability to adjust the pulley height also allows you to emphasize different fibers, high to low for the lower chest, straight across for mid-chest, and low to high for the upper chest. Weights here should be moderate. Most lifters focus on 12 to 15 smooth, controlled reps per set, rather than loading up too heavy. The goal is tension and squeeze, not raw strength. Done right, the contraction at the peak feels like a deep flex that can't be replicated with free weights. Cable crossovers are usually placed at the end of a chest workout as a finishing move. They pump blood into the muscle, carve out separation, and help develop that clear line down the middle of the pecs. The decline barbell press is one of the best ways to target the lower portion of the chest, an area that flat and incline presses don't fully develop. This part of the chest is called the sternal head, and when it's trained well, it adds thickness and roundness to the bottom of the pecs. That's what gives the chest a solid, finished look. The bench is set at a slight downward angle, usually about 15 to 30 degrees. This changes the line of push so the lower fibers of the chest do more of the work. You grip the bar a little wider than shoulder width, lower it in a controlled way to the lower chest, then press it back up. Because the angle gives you more leverage, most people can lift heavier on the decline than they can on flat bench. What makes this exercise valuable is the mechanics of pressing downward. At the bottom, the chest fibers are stretched under load, and on the way up, they contract hard to bring the arms together. Research on muscle activation shows that decline presses fire the lower chest significantly more than flat presses, making them the most direct tool for this region. Another benefit is shoulder safety. Many lifters find the decline angle less stressful on their shoulders, since the bar path naturally follows the chest instead of forcing the arms into an awkward position. That makes it a joint-friendly way to press heavy while still building size. For balanced chest development, decline pressing is essential. Flat bench may test your overall strength, and incline fills out the upper chest, but decline makes sure the lower chest is equally powerful. Without it, the chest can look big in the middle yet flat at the bottom. The machine chest press is a safer and more controlled alternative to free weight pressing. It mainly targets the pectoralis major, the big chest muscle line, while also working the shoulders and triceps. What sets it apart is the stability. Because the path of the handles is fixed, you don't need to balance the weight like you would with a barbell or dumbbells. This stability has two big advantages. First, it allows you to focus purely on pushing with the chest, which helps build a stronger mind-muscle connection. The ability to actually feel the pecs doing the work. Second, it lowers the risk of injury since there's less chance of the weight wobbling or pulling your joints into 1 safe positions. The setup is simple. Sit with your back against the pad, grip the handles slightly wider than shoulder width, and press forward until your arms are almost straight. Then slowly return until you feel a stretch across the chest. Keeping the movement slow and controlled increases time under tension, which research shows is a key factor for muscle growth. Science also supports the machine press as a good tool for hypertrophy. Studies comparing machines and free weights find that while free weights recruit more stabilizing muscles, machines often allow people to push closer to failure safely. This means you can get more effective volume without worrying about dropping the weight or losing form. The machine chest press won't replace the barbell bench press for raw strength, but it's perfect for adding extra volume, training to failure without a spotter, or safely pressing when your shoulders need less strain. The dumbbell pullover is a unique exercise because it trains the chest in a way most presses and flies don't. It mainly works the pectoralis major, but it also heavily recruits the serratus anterior, the sawtoothed muscle along the ribs, and even the lats in the back. That's why it's often called a bridge exercise between chest and back training. The movement starts by lying across a bench, usually with only your upper back supported and hips slightly dropped. Holding one dumbbell above your chest with both hands, you slowly lower it in an arc behind your head until you feel a deep stretch in the chest and rib cage. Then you pull it back over your chest, using controlled force, not momentum. Why is this exercise so effective? It puts the chest under a loaded stretch in a position where the fibers are fully lengthened, something presses don't achieve as strongly. Research shows that training a muscle in its lengthened position can stimulate more hypertrophy, making pullovers a powerful tool for chest growth. Arnold himself swore by this movement for expanding the rib cage and giving the chest a bigger, barrel-like look. While modern science debates whether rib cage expansion is possible, there's no doubt the pullover adds both size and depth to the upper torso. Form is crucial. Using too much weight can strain the shoulders, so it's best to keep the load moderate and focus on the stretch and squeeze. Think of it less as a power move and more as a chest expander. The dumbbell pullover may not be as common as bench presses or flies, but it offers something different: a stretch-driven contraction that builds the chest, improves torso mobility, and engages supporting muscles that give the upper body a complete look. The Smith machine press is a chest press variation performed on a guided barbell track. Like the barbell bench press, it works the pectoralis major along with the shoulders and triceps, but the fixed path changes how the movement feels. Because the bar travels on rails, you don't have to balance the weight. This makes it easier to focus on pushing with the chest, while reducing the demand on stabilizing muscles. For beginners, that means learning the pressing motion safely. For advanced lifters, it means they can go heavier or push closer to failure without worrying about the bar drifting. Science shows that stability can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the Smith machine allows more consistent targeting of the pecs, especially if you adjust your bench angle, flat for mid-chest, incline for upper chest, decline for lower chest. On the other hand, because the bar path is fixed, it doesn't match everyone's natural joint movement. That's why some lifters feel shoulder discomfort if their setup isn't perfect. The key is positioning. Keep your body and the bench aligned so the bar moves over the mid-chest rather than straight up and down over the shoulders. Control the bar on the way down, pause briefly, then drive it back up. Slow, steady reps build more time under tension, which is one of the main drivers of hypertrophy. The Smith machine press won't replace free weight pressing for raw strength or functional stability, but it's an excellent accessory tool. It's especially useful for safely adding volume, working to muscle failure without a spotter, or focusing on chest activation with less joint strain. The pec deck fly is a machine version of the dumbbell fly, designed to isolate the chest while removing the challenge of balancing weights. It mainly targets the pectoralis major, with a strong emphasis on the inner chest, and because the movement is guided, it allows for a safer and more controlled stretch. The setup is straightforward. Sit with your back against the pad, grip the handles or place your forearms against the pads, and bring your arms together in front of your chest. The key is to keep a slight bend in the elbows to protect the joints while focusing on squeezing the chest at the midpoint. Slowly return to the starting position to get a full stretch before the next rep. What makes the pec deck effective is the constant tension it provides. With dumbbells, the resistance drops off at the top of the fly because gravity pulls straight down. On the pec deck, resistance is steady throughout the entire range of motion, keeping the pecs engaged from start to finish. Research on muscle activation confirms that machine flies create very high chest engagement, making them ideal for hypertrophy. Because it's a pure isolation exercise, the pec deck doesn't involve much help from the shoulders or triceps. This makes it a great tool for finishing a workout when the chest is already fatigued. It also builds the mind-muscle connection, helping lifters feel the chest contract more directly. Most people benefit from lighter to moderate weights, focusing on 12 to 15 slow, controlled reps per set. The goal here isn't to move as much weight as possible, but to maximize the squeeze and stretch in every repetition. The pec deck fly is not a replacement for heavy presses, but it's one of the best finishing moves for pumping the chest full of blood and carving out definition across the middle of the pecs. The Landmine press is a unique pressing exercise where one end of a barbell is anchored to the floor and the other is pressed upward at an angle. While it mainly works the upper chest and shoulders, the angled path changes how the muscles are activated compared to a flat or incline press. To perform it, stand with the bar barbell anchored in front of you, hold the loaded end with both hands and press it upward and slightly forward. Because the bar travels on a diagonal path, the clavicular fibers of the chest, the upper chest, are recruited heavily, along with the front delts and triceps. One of the biggest advantages of the Landmine press is joint safety. Traditional overhead presses can put stress on the shoulders, especially if mobility is limited. The angled bar path of the Landmine creates a more natural pressing motion, reducing strain on the shoulder joint while still building strength and size. This makes it a smart alternative for lifters dealing with shoulder discomfort. Science also supports the value of pressing at different angles. Changing the line of push alters which chest fibers are activated most. The Landmine's diagonal press is a middle ground between an overhead press and an incline press, making it excellent for filling out the upper chest. It's also versatile. You can perform it standing for core engagement, kneeling for stability, or even one arm at a time to correct imbalances. Moderate weights work best here. The focus should be on controlled reps and feeling the chest contract, not just moving the heaviest load possible. The Landmine press may not be as common as the barbell bench or dumbbell press, but it adds variety, protects the joints, and builds an upper chest that looks both strong and athletic. The guillotine press is a rare and advanced chest exercise that puts maximum tension on the upper chest. Instead of lowering the barbell to the mid or lower chest like in a standard bench press, the bar is lowered to the neck or collarbone area side by side, which is why it earned the name guillotine. This change in bar path shifts the stress almost entirely onto the clavicular head of the pectoralis major, the fibers that make up the upper chest. Unlike traditional pressing, the shoulders and triceps contribute less, forcing the chest to work harder. Lifters who struggle to build the top of the chest often use this move to spark new growth. The science behind it is simple though. The chest's main job is to bring the arms inward and slightly upward. By pressing from the collarbone line, the arms follow that upward path more directly, which increases activation in the upper pecs. Studies on bench press variations confirm that changing the bar path significantly changes which fibers are recruited most. But this exercise is also risky. The shoulder joint is placed in a very stretched position, and poor form or heavy loads can lead to injury. For safety, it should be done with lighter weights, higher reps, and strict control. The bar should always move slowly with the elbows kept wide and the back flat against the bench. When performed carefully, the guillotine press is one of the most intense upper chest builders in existence. It's not for beginners, but for experienced lifters looking to add size and shape to the clavicle region, it's a powerful tool. The isometric chest squeeze is a simple but highly effective way to activate and fatigue the chest without needing heavy weights. It works through isometric contraction, which means the muscles generate force without actually moving through a range of motion. In this case, the pectoralis major is squeezed and held under tension, training endurance and improving the mind-muscle connection. To perform it, hold a weight plate, medicine ball, or even just press your palms together in front of your chest. Push inward as hard as you can while keeping the elbows slightly bent, and hold the squeeze for 20 to 30 seconds. The chest fibers contract continuously during this hold, forcing blood into the muscle and creating a strong pump. Science supports the value of isometric training. Studies show that holding a muscle under constant tension recruits a high percentage of fibers and improves strength at that joint angle. For the chest, this makes the isometric squeeze useful both as a finisher at the end of a workout and as a warm-up drill to wake up the pecs before heavy pressing. The best part is accessibility. Anyone can do it. Beginners can start with just pressing their palms together, while advanced lifters can add resistance by holding a plate or band. It's also joint-friendly since the shoulders and elbows don't move under load. The isometric chest squeeze won't replace heavy presses or flies, but it's a great addition for building control, improving chest activation, and adding an extra layer of detail to your training.